Welcome back to the Ghost Bunny Podcast. I'm your host, Bridget Marquardt, with a brand new episode for you guys. This week, my guest is Lorie Blanchard. Lorie Blanchard is a clairvoyant tarot reader, intuitive guide, and multi-passionate creative who walks boldly through liminal spaces, those thresholds between worlds where spirits, memory, and possibility intertwine. Known for her deeply resonant TikTok live readings and soulful insight, Lorie has become a beloved voice of the spiritual and creative communities for those seeking clarity, connection, and healing. She is the founder and publisher of Spirited Soul magazine, a quarterly print and digital publication that explores mysticism, artistry, transformation, and wellness. A lifelong musician, visual artist, and writer, Lorie's work is infused with a rare sensitivity to the unseen and a deep reverence for the mystery at heart of the existence. From childhood experiences with spirit to her present-day work as a holy fire Reiki master and energetic channel, Lorie brings a grounded yet visionary lens to questions of the afterlife, hauntings, and the difference between residual energy, intelligent hauntings, visitation dreams, and high vibrational spiritual presence. Through her TikTok presence and her new Spirited Soul podcast, she continues to explore the magic that emerges when we honor the spaces between the worlds, within ourselves and beyond the veil. And I'm so excited to talk to her today. Lorie, thank you so much for doing the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I am just honored and over the moon to be here and have this opportunity to talk to you about stuff that I'm so excited about.
Absolutely. So we have Denise and Selma from 3CE Paranormal to thank for connecting us.
Aren't they awesome?
They are so much fun. Like, I cannot wait to go and investigate with them.
We're going to have fun because I'm going to tag along on that investigation and we are going to have a great time.
I'm going to let the listeners know because I mean, I'm hoping to get video for it while we're there and stuff, just on my cell phone and stuff. But we are going to this little town called Locke, and it's on the Delta. It's back by my hometown, like by Lodi, and it's right on the water. And I've always known it as a kid to be like a very kind of like a motorcycle town, like bikers would go to. There's a restaurant there called Al's, and I remember going there as a kid. I have not been there. I think I've been there as an adult, but I have not been there in so long. I couldn't even tell you when it was. But it's very much kind of like a biker bar in front and like restaurant in the back. And if I remember right, have you been going there for a while? Are you familiar with it?
So I used to live just down the street about, maybe 50, down the river road, about 15 miles in West Sacramento. And so that was kind of started being a haunt for me when I would say 30 years ago. I've been going about 30 years. And then slowly I had friends start moving there. So now I know people that actually live there. So we go all the time. In fact, I'm kind of like the resident tarot reader in the town whenever they have an event. So it's kind of like we even thought about moving there at one point. Like, I love it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So at this restaurant bar, I remember that there used to be a very limited menu. Like, I feel like it was just like steak and like a piece of bread. And for some reason, peanut butter is coming to mind.
Yeah.
I don't know where the peanut butter is coming from, but
they have a little bit more than that now, but it's the food's delicious. And they have, they've got like steak sandwiches. I think that's what they used to be known for, was the steak sandwiches. And they have like fish sandwiches and salads, but it's definitely a limited menu.
Yeah, but it's way more, because I looked it up because I was going to go there the last time we were home, and then I just ran out of time. So this time we for sure will go there. But I just remember thinking, oh, wow, they got a lot more stuff than they used to have.
Yeah, but I've always wondered if that place is haunted, because I always got a haunted vibe in the whole town. Like, you can't go there and not go, something's happening here. The whole town just feels like, it's like I encourage people to go online and look up historic town of Locke, because the images, you'll just be like, this is incredible. It's like nothing has changed since 1910.
Yes. Yes. And it's very like Old West style buildings, but then it has like this very big Chinese influence in it.
Absolutely.
So it's such a contradiction in your head, but like it was all there and it was all happening at that time. I mean, do you know the history? Because I have to assume it has something to do with like the railroad and that kind of thing.
Well, and also the farm. So the valley's been farming from as soon as people moved here during the gold rush. So a lot of the Chinese workers that were living in the area were either working for the local farmers, pear farmers at the time, or they were railroad workers that had then gotten this kind of work. What happened was they were all living in an area not too far from that, and there was a fire in the town. I don't know if it was intentionally set or if it was just accidental. Back then, things like that could happen so quickly. But there was a man named Locke who employed many of these people, and he wanted to protect them. So he gave them property basically in perpetuity so that they had a safe place to live that was for their community. So if you go to Locke now, there's a Chinese museum. They took the gambling hall and turned it into a museum as well. There's a whole area where you can see where someone would sit out front and push a button if the cops came, and then they would flip things around and everything just looked like it was a little restaurant or something. They could push a button and flip all of the things around so you wouldn't even know that gambling had been happening there.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's neat. It's really neat.
And I've always gotten a vibe in that town, but I haven't spent a lot of time there. And back when I did go there here and there, I was way too young, and it was before, you know, anybody had any kind of gadgets, or really even the term ghost hunting was even really a thing. But I do remember always having a vibe in that town of some sort. It also is near this hotel that I really want to check out when I go home
the
too.
Ride, right?
The Ride Hotel, yes.
That place is definitely haunted. That is just known.
100,000%.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on with it right now. Maybe you do, since you go out to that area. But last I looked, it was like open, but not.
Yeah, it's like, really, the last I heard was it's almost like you have to rent the whole building for an event. So say if you had a wedding there, then you rent the whole building. That, or you have a party and you rent it out for the party. So I don't know that it's open just like for day to day so much as you would need to rent it for an event. But it might be a really great thing for you to do one of your special events there. Something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I have this like little dream that someday I want to own my own like haunted hotel, and I don't want it to be a giant thing. I want it to be a fairly small hotel, but not a bed and breakfast, like something bigger than that. So something in between. And I was thinking, oh, maybe because if I remember right, the Ride used to be very beautiful hotel.
Oh, it's stunning. It's one of the most beautiful hotels in our area by far. You go down off of the levee down into this area, and it's just beautiful. It is a gem of a hotel.
So I've never been there. I've only driven past, but my cousin used to work at the restaurant there, and he used to tell me that they did like an amazing, or actually I used to know too, they were famous for like their Sunday brunch.
Yeah, the brunch used to be a thing. I went to brunch there a long time ago, and I think I went to a wedding there once. But I know people that have stayed in rooms and come out and been like, yeah, it was haunted. And I know someone that used to work there, and they were like, yeah, it's definitely
I'm going to ask my cousin too about it if he has any stories. But I just saw an article in the Lodi News Sentinel. It was an online article. It had been done a while ago. I don't recall what year now, but they sent a reporter out there, and she had a full haunted paranormal experience out there.
How fun.
And she wrote about it. Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go here. But what I love about this hotel too is it butts right up to the river. Like it's literally right on the river.
Right on the river.
And they have a swimming pool right there. And I just feel like I just can see images of like making it grand again, like really beautiful, doing like really high-end weddings, like really fun Halloween parties, Christmas events, and brunches. And like, I'm like, wouldn't that be amazing? I'd want to redecorate all of the rooms so they're like historic looking, but like nice.
It definitely is kind of like the Great Gatsby house of the area.
And you guys, it's pink. Or at least it was.
I don't know. I haven't been there in ages, so I can't speak to that. I do not know. But I can tell you it is beautiful for sure.
So anyways, back to why I'm talking about all this is you are helping us organize an overnight or at least an evening into the evening, like paranormal tour investigation in the city of Locke because you know so many people there.
Yeah, I'm going to set us up with a potential Airbnb that we can stay at right there. And then I have one definite yes of a place that we can investigate on Main Street. And then we're working on, and we have a good shot at getting one of the museums to let us in. So, so fingers crossed. I don't have a confirmation, so I don't want to say like which museum or what it is, but it would be really cool. And it's rumored to be very haunted if we can get it. So.
Yeah. And this is just a private thing. Like, it's not a ticket selling thing or anything like that. It's just like a group of us girls are going to get together and go do it.
I can't wait.
Oh, I wanted to let the listeners know also, I do know that Ghost Adventures did an episode on Locke at one time, and I was shocked. I was shocked that they even knew Locke existed. I haven't seen it, but I know that they were there.
Yes, that is true.
It's officially summertime, and one of my favorite things to do, as you guys probably already know, is just sit out by the pool and listen to music or talk to my mom on the phone or even listen to my favorite podcast. And when I'm doing that, of course, I want premium audio. Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect summer accessory, whether you're going hard at the gym, enjoying the sun, or taking those work calls outside. Wink, wink. Or maybe you're jamming out while barbecuing to your favorite tunes. Enjoy premium audio that goes where you do. Raycon's latest model is better than ever with a 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once. I'm so excited to take them on my upcoming trip to Colorado because we are doing so many hikes and so much camping, and they're going to be perfect for this adventure. Speaking of battery, with Raycon's quick charge function, just 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery. These earbuds also come with active noise cancellation, something that's difficult to find in something at such an accessible price point, and boy, did I need these on my recent flight. Raycons start at just half the price of other premium audio brands. Raycon's everyday earbuds come in a spectrum of vibrant colors to match your summer vibe. And I think I told you guys already, but I got mine in purple. Like, I've never seen purple earbuds anywhere before. My sister's going to be jealous, and she's probably going to try and steal them from me, though, because her favorite color is purple. And if for some reason you're not loving your Raycons, they offer a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy. No questions asked. Go to buyraycon.com/ghostbunny to get 15% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds. Right now, Raycon is offering 15% off their best-selling everyday earbuds only at buyraycon.com/ghostbunny. buyraycon.com/ghostbunny. So when I first was talking to Selma and Denise, and they were mentioning you and like doing like a, not an introduction, but just being like, oh, we want to do this thing in Locke, and Lorie's setting things up, and she has this magazine and stuff. And I was like, oh, wait, would she be like a good person for me to have on my podcast? And they were like, oh, she'd be an amazing interview. But just so you know, like, I don't think she has like ghost experiences. It's not like that. It's just more like into the spiritual, the intuitive and tarot and everything. And I'm like, that's fine. I like getting all kinds of different perspectives and everything. But then when I spoke to you, it actually is more than that. You have had some experiences.
I absolutely have.
And I was reading from your bio, it says from early childhood experiences. So will you take me back to like the first time you had an experience?
Well, I grew up in a very loving home, very fundamentalist Christian, go to church all the time. My mom, though, it was called the family gift. It was on the DL because she was very active in the church. So, and our church that we went to, which will remain nameless, is very, very much of the opinion that the dead know nothing. So if you were to have any kind of concept outside of that, it could get you kicked out of the church. My mom, though, would move around that by, her thing was that she was her and her angels. So my mom saw her angel. Like, there were miracles. Like, that was not even that big of a thing in my family. Was, yeah, an angel helped out here, an angel saved us here. I didn't see her angel, but I was in the car when we were saved, and there was no human way that happened. Like, someone was about to run us off the road. We were all about to die. And then the car was completely on the opposite side of the road. Like, a hand just scooped us up and moved us. And we're sitting on we're in a turnout, like we were inches away of getting the whole, like we should have all died. And now we're just sitting parked on the opposite side of the road. It was just crazy. And I'm like, what happened? And mom's like, didn't you hear it? Didn't you hear it? Like, the angel said, I got you, so like she had more communication with the other side than I was getting at that time. I was having my own situations happening where I would know if someone was going to call. I'd know who it was. I would know if something bad was going to happen. I would try to talk to people like in the family, like, I've got this bad feeling. I've got this bad feeling. And so because my gifts were maybe a little different, sometimes it wasn't as encouraged or supported because it made them a little uncomfortable. And then I didn't have any like big spirit things like this where you see things until I got older. I had strong clairvoyant things were happening, like knowing knowing when something really dangerous was going to happen, warning people, being able to, see what was going to happen, know what was going to happen. If it was, it didn't happen all the time, but it would happen enough that it could be very unsettling. And then around the time that my parents started to decline, I knew I had kind of shut the gift down because it scared me. It was a little too much. And I felt like I couldn't control it. And then around the time that my parents were declining, I started having this huge spiritual awakening. Like I knew I needed something to navigate their death. I was very close to my parents. I adored them. I still have their pictures right here. Every time I'm reading, they're right there with me. I have candles in front of them. My mom and dad are with me all the time. So as my parents began to really decline, I went and I started, I went and saw a therapist, like, how do I navigate this upcoming grief? And after talking to her, she was like, I don't know. I just feel like you're supposed to do tarot. I feel like you're supposed to get into tarot, which was the oddest thing to have a therapist say. And I go, why do you say that? And she goes, well, you're clearly very intuitive. I'm just picking up on that. And I think that this will help you control that better. And I remember walking away going, did I dream that? Did like a psychologist actually tell me go buy a tarot deck? But then I thought about, I guess Carl Jung was very much into tarot and believed in it. So I got a tarot deck and I was looking for mentors. I ran into this whole thing. I think I might have told you. I told someone recently about the going to a psychic and they were a scam artist, and like I had a good laugh about it and had to walk away. And so I found an online academy and I studied for 3 years at this academy, learning how to read tarot and really try to navigate the gift, because what helped is it gave me a framework, so I can like clock in, I can clock out, and I can turn it on more or less now, even without the cards, in a way I never could before. So it gave me more control. Well, after my dad passed, I had my first, I would say right about that is when I had my first really, I had a big experience. And that was, I'm in a band. I was in a band at the time. I'm a musician and I sang in a bands for decades. And we were at band practice and my dad, I'd been taking care of his dog. And after he passed, I've now got his dog. And his dog is facing me in band practice. We're in a circle. We all sing together. And the dog's looking at me. And all of a sudden, the dog is laying on the couch. All of a sudden, it just jumps up. And it's just got this really freaked out look on its face. And I feel the hair go up all the back of my neck. And I'm like, I just know, because now I'm more tapped in. I'm like, there is someone standing behind me. Now, in my mind, I think there's someone outside the window looking in the window. And I'm like, I'm going to have to get up the nerve to turn around. I'm going to see a face in the window. And I'm going to have to tell the band. And they're going to have to go deal with it. But I've got 5 guys in my living room. I'm not scared, kind of thing, because I just thought someone's in my backyard. And I turn around and my dad is standing in the kitchen. And now I'd been grieving him really bad. We were coming up on like a big anniversary and it was Christmas. And it had just kicked off the grief really bad. And I turn around and my dad is standing there and he's literally dressed in the clothes that I dressed him in, he was a farmer. So I dressed him in really nice blue jeans when he passed and a really nice red flannel shirt, because that was like my dad when I was a kid. I didn't dress him in even the modern day clothes. I dressed him like what he used to wear when I was a kid. And he's standing there looking young, which I've heard when spirits can come back to us, they want to look at their best. They're going to come in looking like about 30, and he's standing there and he's got like this, cup of coffee in his hands, which my dad would always be in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. And he just stands there for a second and he just looks at me. And he's all, sounds good, babe. He said, sounds good, babe. And then he's gone. And I'm just like, what just happened? And I turn around and everybody in the band is looking down at their instruments. Nobody ever does that. We all look at each other. Every single person is looking down, like at their instrument. And the dog is looking at me and I'm looking at the dog and the dog is just looking so freaked out. So I know that it really happened because the dog's the one that alerted me that something was up. Yeah. And so then I went, okay, all right. Right. Okay. I got to process this. And then not long after that, like 3 months later, I'm at an airport and I'm going up to visit my brother and my brother-in-law and sister, and he's in the hospital. We're very close. So I'm worried about him. And he was a vet. And I'm at the, just getting a Coke or something before you get on the plane after you go through security. And there's this man there in the full uniform. Right. And I'm like, thank you for your service, sir. I'm going to visit my brother-in-law, who I love so much, and he was military. I just want to thank you for your service. And he's all, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, And I'm standing there and I go, oh, I'm so sorry. And he says, what? And I go, I'm so sorry about your friend. And he's like, how did you know? I'm going to a funeral. How did you know that? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can just feel it. I go, and I could just see him and his friend's right there. The man that I'm talking to is just fully, decked out in all the things. And he goes, I'm the pallbearer. And he goes, this is my best friend. And he tells me that he had gotten out 3 months before his friend from Afghanistan, and that his friend and him had bought a cabin together to go fishing together. And I'm like, well, he's standing right here. And he wants you to know. And I can see the guy. Like, I can see him. Like, not like he's a person like my dad. It was like a person. But he's like, I can see through him, but he's right there. Enough to know he's, his race, his gender, everything. Like, I know he's there. And I turned to him and I said, he says you're feeling guilty for some reason. And he's like, well, yeah, I got out first and we were going to do this together. And he wasn't able to he had to stay for 3 months. And I go, and he says, is that your fault that he had to stay for 3 months? How is that your fault? That's not your fault. And he's like, I don't know. I've just got survivor's guilt. And he's like, yeah. And he says, if it was reversed, would you be telling him to feel bad? Like, if you were on the other side, would you be telling him to feel bad? And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, he says, go fishing. He just keeps saying, go fishing. And he's like, and that's when he told me we got a fishing cabin. And so I go, they're calling my plane. I have to go. But he just wanted you to know, stop it, knock it off. He loves you. Have a great time. Go fishing. Think of him. And then and that was like, that one blew my mind. Like, cause I had complete affirmation that it was real. And it was so like crazy because I didn't even expect it or invite it. I just was kind of open because I was going to go visit my brother that I was worried about, and he had been in the military. And so since then, there's been a few. It doesn't happen all the time, but there's been a few situations like that where, something comes through. And I do a lot of spiritual work and practice and have various mentors. And one of my mentors said to me, they said, I'm always drawn to liminal spaces. The idea of like, we're here in this 3D world on this planet, and then there's somewhere else that we can go to. And near-death experiences talk of that other place. To me, the interesting thing is the liminal space that we don't even really see, but it's right here. And I think, that comes back to what you do, your work, where you're out doing investigations. There is that liminal space where some people don't choose to move on. They choose to stay for whatever the reason is. I always hear it's a free will planet. It's a free will planet. No one can force you to do anything you don't want to do, as far as spiritually or whatever. Like, if someone doesn't want to leave, nobody can force them to leave. Like, they can choose. It's not recommended, but they can choose. Right. So for me, what I usually am feeling is that sometimes I can walk in this liminal space just briefly for just a little bit. I can see things. So I've also had visitation dreams. So that's like a whole different layer. There's in my mind, what I can guess or see is there are the hauntings and the spirits that stay where they are most connected to the planet. And then there are, the people that, I think there's intelligent hauntings, and then there's ones where it's just a loop or whatever. But then I also think that there are people that, they're spiritual and they want to move on, but they can come be with us anytime. Right. But I also think that there's this space in between. And this is where I think I have maybe an ability where I can go sometimes and have a conversation with someone that's in that liminal space, maybe before they've fully integrated on the other side, or maybe they just have enough energy to come down and have a conversation with me, and they go back and I go back. It's almost like this crazy little space where I can have these visitation dreams. And every time I have one, I know they've passed. I'm lucid dreaming. They know they've passed. We discuss it. And I remember most of the conversation. And there's certain things that are the same for me every time I know, like, okay, that was a visitation. That's not a regular dream.
What are those things that differentiate it?
So a dream would be my mom and I go shopping. This is my subconscious. I had a dream where my mom and I went shopping, and my mom kept picking things out for me generously. And I'm like, Mom, I can't afford it. And Mom kept telling the guy, put it on my tab. That was a powerful dream. It meant a lot to me because it meant my mom was looking out for me and she was going to support me. Even when I felt like I had a lack inside myself, thinking I could or couldn't do things. But my mom, that's just my subconscious, I think, channeling how would Mom want me to handle this situation. A liminal space dream is I'm somewhere where I know I'm not normally. Like, this is not my world. This is very unusual. And sometimes I'll even talk to people like a guardian. One time I went and I showed up, and there's these two guys like at a gate, and they're like, what? why are you here? And I said, I don't know. Somebody said they want to talk to me. And it's like they got it. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, go up there. There's like a cabin. Go to the cabin. And I'm like, I don't know who I'm supposed to meet. They're like, yeah. Just go to the cabin. You're fine. And so then and everything's kind of gray around it. So there's like the guys, and then it's all gray, and then there's a cabin. It's all almost like my mind is creating the next part of what I'm going to visually be able to grasp onto, because if I was completely in their world, I wouldn't know how to navigate that space. So the two things have to create something that you can navigate. So then I go to the cabin, and then there's a knock on the door, and I open it, and it was my dad on the other side. This is the second big one with my dad. And my dad hugs me, and he hugged me so hard. I woke up the next morning feeling the hug. Like it was physical. And the interesting thing was I was afraid to open the door. And in my head, I heard, if you don't open this door, you'll never know what gift could have been on the other side. And so I just went, don't be afraid, just open the door. And it was my dad. And then he gave me this big hug, and I said, and like, I know he's passed, and I'm like, Dad, I miss you so much. Thank you for everything you gave me when we were together on this world. And I'm so grateful. And I go, you look great, and he goes, yeah, he goes, not bad. He goes, not bad for a dead man, huh? Which is his humor. When my dad was getting ready to pass, I said to him, just think, you're the first person from the family, our core family, that's going to be on the great adventure on the other side. Because my dad was super adventurous. He had been a bush pilot in Alaska, and he had been on the Alaska Railway. He ended up working his way up to engineer on the Alaskan Railway. Very adventurous man, motorcycle rider, had a Harley, And I said, just think, you'll be the first person to go on the other side and then have this big adventure. And he said to me, those are really bold words for someone on the other side of the bed rail.
Yeah.
Which, okay, fair.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of the thing. Like, it's usually there's gray space and there's one or two things. One time I had a dream where my grandpa came and visited me, and he'd always wanted to go to a pro baseball game, and we'd never gone. So we're at a pro baseball game, and we're in one of those like VIP booths, and we're just kicking back, talking about the family, watching a baseball game together. But we're not really watching the game. We're just talking to each other and you can hear the crowd, and you can see little things happening, but we're having this conversation, and it's where they acknowledge they've passed, you acknowledge it, but you miss them, and you're having that connection.
Yeah.
So that's just me. I know that a lot of people that see things on the other side, they're going to see things different. That's just how our minds work, right? I don't think there's any one size fits all, but for me, there's usually some kind of a gray space, and I can see one or two structures or things in it, and the rest of it's just gray around it. Almost misty, like from a movie.
Well, I feel like people see different things because I feel like it kind of all depends on what the other side thinks you can handle.
Exactly.
Or how you're going to be able to navigate it the best, or just comprehend it and understand it and realize it's something different, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not scary, even though it's scary, you're going to be okay. And so I think for each person, that's something different. That'll make them feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's very tailored to whoever's having the vision. But I had a dream, and I won't bore the listeners with it because I've told it before on here, but I'll have to tell you about it later. But just to give you the gist, I know for a fact it was a visitation. Like, there's no question in my mind. And I've talked to other people about it, and they're like, for sure it was a visitation. But I went to the mansion, and it was like abandoned, but yet it wasn't. And the music was playing, and there was one light on, and Hef came down, and it was after he passed, and he gave me a big hug, and I could feel his smoking jacket. I could smell his cologne. I could feel the hug.
You can feel it, right? You feel it. They're gone. They acknowledge they're gone. They hug you, and it's literally as if you could wake up with bruises because the hug was so powerful.
Yes. Like, I felt that there was every sense was used in it. Like, I could see, smell, hear, everything, feel, like all of the senses were involved in it. And there were things that weren't right about it, as in like layout, or like,
yeah.
Why would the mansion have been abandoned, but yet there were staff, but yet there wasn't? You know what I mean? Like, it still had like some of those dream things that happen where they just don't make sense, and it just is what it is because it's a dream. But the visitation was real.
Well, and think about it. He's not there anymore. That's his presence. That was his palace on this planet. With him gone, it would be different. And you're both acknowledging he's gone, right? In that moment.
I don't I don't know that we acknowledged it. Like I was just waiting in the like the breakfast room area for him, and he came down the stairs and he has his arms open wide, and he said, "My darling," and he had the big laugh, and he gave me a big hug. And I think because I didn't get to say goodbye, I feel
Mhm.
like it was just sort of a goodbye. It was a
Yeah.
closure thing.
Yeah.
I didn't say, "But you're dead," or anything, and he didn't say, "Oh, I'm dead, but I'm fine," or no, I don't think there was any
But
acknowledgement
you
made.
knew, like in that dream, you knew.
I don't know what I knew in the dream. I'm not sure. But I mean, I knew it in real life.
Yeah.
I knew it before I went to bed that night that
Yeah.
he had passed. I
But
knew it
I
when I
mean,
woke up.
but like just the idea that you could get that kind of a hug. I don't know, like
Yeah,
I normally when I have dreams, I don't feel like that. It's a different feeling.
it is. It's more like you're in a movie
Yeah,
almost
it's
or
really
something.
cool. Oh, that's a great dream.
But this one was very real. Very real. And also I don't really remember my dreams typically. And I've tried to do the thing where you write it down right away. But I mean, even so much as rolling over to grab my phone or a pen, it's gone.
Yeah.
If I even like blink my eye, it's gone. So I don't really remember my dreams at all. It's very rare. When I do try to jot down just like it's very fragmented in the little things that I can remember. But this one was different.
Well,
This
you
one I
remember
remembered
so
every
much. Yeah.
detail.
Yeah.
Every detail. I was there. I was at the mansion. But again, like when you were saying that liminal space, I feel like we weren't at the mansion at all. We
Yeah.
were in that liminal space, but
Yeah.
they had to put it in a way that I would feel comfortable going there. And you know what?
What?
I didn't even think about this. You just said the guards at the gate and stuff. I did pull up to the gate and I talked to what we called the Rock because the Rock had a speaker in it. So I talked to security at the gate and said that I was there to see Hef, and they let me up. So there's a lot of similarities in your visitation, but they just put it in a spot that's
Yeah.
familiar with me and makes sense.
I love this so much. I'm so glad you remembered that about the people at the gate because this is interesting to me. Like my mom, when she passed, I kept thinking that okay, mom, because mom did not believe the same thing I believe. So I just kind of assumed that at some point she's going to come and be like, oh, okay, you were right. Which is not like her. And so, but what happened instead, which was so weird, was I think that their time and ours is different. I don't think that it's exactly concurrent. There's a lot of talk like quantum physics and quantum mechanics that time is possibly all happening at the same time. It's not like our mind puts it in a certain way so we can navigate it. But
Yeah.
when she passed, and this has never happened to me. So this is how I think that it is 5 nights in a row, I had the same dream. And every night in that dream, I was walking with my mom through a tunnel and it was dark and lights would come on. The closer we would get to a light would come on and a light would go off. And we're walking through this tunnel together and she's very tired. So I'm just talking to her. In this dream, I know she's passed. She isn't talking back to me. She's just too tired to talk. But I know she's passed. And I'm literally walking with her, planning her funeral. Do you want this or do you want this? Okay, you can't talk. Just nod yes or nod no. Like I'm planning the funeral with her as we're walking 5 nights in a row. And finally on the 5th night, I just went, oh, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, she's not talking to me. And then I'm all, is she mad at me? Did I say or do something in those last hours, last days? Because I was involved with hospice with her. And, you always ask yourself, did I do the right thing?
Yes.
And so it's like she's trying to talk to me and she can't. And then I just heard this voice and it said subliminal, which I thought was really interesting. And that's all I heard was subliminal. And then I woke up and then I didn't have that dream again. It was just the first 5 nights after she died, 5 nights in a row. And just recently I talked with someone whose dad died and she had almost the exact same experience. 5 nights in a row, same dream, 5 nights, and then hasn't had the dream since. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know what the connection to 5 is, but I don't know. Liminal spaces, it's just an interesting thing.
Well, there definitely seems to be, I mean, it's the limited research, it's just kind of our experiences, but there does seem to be like a little bit of a pattern in things. And there does seem to be like I don't know if we want to call them rules, but there almost seems to be kind of like rules on the other side.
Oh, I
Like
think there
things they
are
can
rules.
say and can't say, and when they can come and when they can't come. And yeah, it just seems it's so interesting.
Are you hip to this girl? She's fabulous. She was Miss New York, and I turned on to her on Instagram during the pandemic, and she does Heaven's Receptionist. Her skits, Heaven's Receptionist. If you haven't seen it, you guys, it's beautiful. And she pretends like she's the receptionist at heaven, and she greets people when they come up. So and there's always just these really fun ones, like, or she's talking to someone famous and they're trying to get permission to come down and visit a loved one, and she'll be like, okay, but what's your haunting outfit going to be? That's a little too scary. Can we negotiate on that? What are you going to wear? And sometimes people reach out to her and they're like, so and so that I love so much is passed. Would you consider doing a special Heaven's Receptionist and greet them when they get there? Those are the ones you cry your eyes out. The celebrity ones are fun, but when she does one for someone, for the family, like a child or a family member that's really missing someone, you just sit and cry. She's just fabulous. Her name's Taryn something. I can't remember. You can find it. Just type in Heaven's Receptionist. It's incredible. But I do think sometimes maybe there's rules.
I think so. Okay, so you said that you were getting like kind of clairvoyant messages from being really little, like, oh, something's going to happen or things like that. When did you know that you were like clairvoyant? Like, but because I know as little kids, sometimes we
12.
just accept it as reality.
Yeah, 12, probably 12 to 14. I mean, before that, I just thought everybody could do it. And then I would say stuff and people would give me weird looks. And I'm like, oh, you don't. Okay, so we don't talk about this, right? And that's the thing in my family. My mom was psychic. My grandma was psychic. My sister had moments where she would like tune into stuff, and they literally called it the family gift. And so it was like Fight Club. So you do it, you're in it, but you don't talk about it. And you're even careful about talking about it within the family. So I knew that it was something, and I kind of knew I could do it, but I hadn't really thought too much about it. It was just like normal, right? And then Mom started kind of picking up that it was happening to be more and more right around puberty. Like it was just starting to be like, it came online, just boom, right? And so then that's when she's sitting down and she's like, I really want you to be careful about the occult. And I want you to be careful that everything has to be God-centric. Well, I believe that I'm very, very God-centric, but I also believe that there are things that can be perceived in a way that are not the way that they are. Like, I think that there are things like my cards, I don't see anything inherently evil in the cards. The cards are just something that allows me to utilize my gift better. My mom would not have been okay with this at all. And I know that, but I'm free to live my life now and be who I am. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. I just feel like on the other side, she doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, when I feel like also, speaking of rules and things that happen on the other side, I also feel like when you're on the other side, the full picture becomes more clear.
Exactly.
Like people have talked about like their life reviews and things like that. And supposedly like you see not only your own point of view, but you see other people's point of view and where other people were coming from. And you just have a bigger picture of how everything really happened and a better understanding. So I feel like she understands now.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't lose any sleep about it at all. But I definitely, it kicked in, like around then. And then I realized pretty soon, like it could freak people out if you knew stuff. So especially friends, teenagers, like I kind of learned to keep it to myself, but I would use it to help myself out. I would use it to avoid situations. I have a really high intuition for danger. So if there's a dangerous situation, I know to avoid it. I know, like my angel walks with me. My mom wrote a book called My Angel Walks With Me. I helped her write it. And so I very much am like, my angel walks with me. I've had people try to say, oh, you have a dark energy around you. And I'll be like, no, I don't, man. I walk with God. My angel and I are fine. Like you keep that on your side of the street. Don't project it onto mine. That is not mine. I refuse to go into that. No, you can't put that onto me.
Well, I think there are some people out there that anytime there is a paranormal thing or an energy or something, they automatically go to negative.
Yeah. For sure.
And I feel like it's so rarely a negative thing. It might be kind of an asshole spirit because they were an asshole in person, right. But it's very rarely an actual like negative entity.
Yeah. And I had a conversation with someone in my family who started seeing spirits, and they were scared. And so we had a conversation. They were, coming up on puberty. And so their gift is kicked in, and it's much more on the medium paranormal side of things. Right. And I mean, I guess clairvoyant is paranormal, but you know what I mean? Like much more in that realm. Like mine comes and goes, like, but this person's on all that, like they're having experiences a lot. And I walked them through just like what my studies have shown me is that we have dominion on this planet. We have dominion on this planet. So we have the right to tell somebody, no, like a spirit, no, you can't be here. You can't do this. So I told him that. I'm like, you can set your threshold. You can set your boundary. You do not have to accept this kind of energy.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the tarot readings. So I know you got involved through the therapist, which I think is so great. But then and I know you went to the academy to learn how to use them and everything, but tell me if you do anything special with your tarot cards, because I've heard like these different rules or different suggestions. Somebody else has to buy your tarot cards. You have to wrap them in silk. You have to I don't know. There's things. Do you do anything special? What kind of cards do you use?
So glad you asked this question. I have two things I want to talk to you about that I keep forgetting. Okay. This is one of them. And I'm going to do, and I'll send you all my socials so that you can post this so that I'm going to do a whole series on this. I did it before, but it was on another platform. So this is my take. Most of it is superstition. So no, you do not have to have someone give you your first deck. That is ridiculous. You have to understand that where that came from was cards used to be very difficult to get and very expensive. So they were handed down from family member to family member or as a gift, something so treasured that generations handed them down because they were difficult. They were not readily available until about 1920 when U.S. Games, 1914, 1920, when U.S. Games started really, well, Rider-Waite, Ryder first started publishing them in England, and then U.S. Games picked them up in America. So no, you can go buy all the decks you want. I advise people, though, always start with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That is the easiest to use. It's the fundamental. Everything is pretty much built on that other than the deck of Marseille. So definitely get just a generic, general Rider-Waite-Smith deck. You don't have to wait for someone to give it to you. Do I wrap it in silk? No, but it's lovely. That's lovely. If you want to do it, it's nice. Another one. Okay, letting your clients cut your cards. I personally don't let my clients cut my cards. That's my energy. I've been working with this deck for 10 years. I slept with it under my pillow. It gave me the neck ache. Why should someone else get their energy all over mine? But that's just me. That's just me. So what I do, and I didn't do it with our reading because I knew there was a time crunch, and also we weren't in person, but I have an oracle deck. So what I do when I'm reading in person is I have an oracle deck. I primarily use this beautiful deck called Oracle of the Moon. It's beautiful. And I let people touch that and spread it around and play with it and get their energy all over that deck. That's for you guys. And then you get to pick the card, and then you read that card. I read it from the book. And that kind of it ends up always summarizing the reading in some beautiful way. It's general and yet specific in a way I don't understand. So I let my clients play with the Oracle deck, but these are my babies and nobody touches them but me. One time, true story, I had a friend who was drinking, and she asked if I would get my cards out. I should have known better. And I got my cards out, and she said, will you do a reading for me? And I started to read for her, and I got distracted, and I looked like this, and I turned back, and she was playing with them. And I'm not going to make her feel bad. It's not her fault. I'm the one who didn't say, hey, babes, probably not a good idea right now, And so then I took them home. I couldn't read with them for a week. Now, it was probably me. It was probably my own block and my own subconscious block on that. But I felt like the cards were mad at me. Like, we had an agreement, and the agreement and trust got broken, and now you have to earn me back. So,
wow.
So that's part of, for me, I just don't. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else, superstitions, there are definitely some superstitions. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk to you about. Okay.
Yes.
So this makes me crazy as a tarot reader. So I wonder if you've ever seen movies where they have tarot cards in the movies, because almost always.
Probably.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll think of a couple. My husband, as soon as tarot cards come out in a movie, he's just like, oh my God, here we go. because I'll start ranting. I'll start ranting just like he does when his team is losing in the Super Bowl. Like, I'll be like, are you kidding me? Oh, of course they're going to say that. Of course they're going to say, oh, the Hanged Man, it's a bad card. It's not a bad card. He's a chill guy. He's hung by his foot, not his neck. He's having a good day. Stop it, you know? And we have a friend who's a movie producer, and we stayed at his house. And he told me, he was all like being really supportive. And he's like, oh, you know, the tarot, he goes, I'll have to talk to you. I'm working on a treatment for a movie that's going to have tarot cards in it. And I'm like, don't screw it up. It just came out of my mouth so fast. I was like, please, please hire someone. Doesn't have to be me. Hire somebody who knows about tarot, because what happens is a mistake got made 100 years ago or 80 years ago in a movie. And so they use the death card means death. The Hanged Man means something bad is coming. They have like 4 cards that they always use. And it'd be like the girl turns it over. It's like, oh, you know, it's always the same cards and it's always wrong. The death card doesn't mean death. The death card means something's ending. It could be a good thing. If you were in a long drawn out lawsuit, you want to get the death card. You know, like you want that thing to end. So anyway, that's my rant for the day.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned sleeping on them under your pillow. What does that do?
You know, probably nothing. I just, other than gave me a neck ache.
Gives you the neck ache?
Yes. But, you know, I was like, that one I was willing to try. I was like, I'm going to try this one. And, you know, and my tarot teacher, I had like an actual tarot teacher. He had written a best-selling book on tarot, Easiest Way to Learn Tarot Ever by Dusty White. And it's a workbook and it's fabulous for learning how to use tarot. And then he had an online academy. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I studied there for about 3 years. We'd meet 3-4 times a week. And then he had his pre-recorded training sessions. And so I found it hugely beneficial. And I got to be in a group of people from all around the world. And all of them, like I was brand new. I was a complete tarot baby. And I'm in this incredible group with someone that's been doing it for 30 years, someone that's been doing it for 10 years. And we would all read for each other. So to be able to be in that group for years, and I mean, there was a guy that was in Moscow. There was somebody in South Africa, somebody in Ireland. I was in California, somebody in Georgia, and somebody in Texas. And it was just every week we got together and read for each other. It was fabulous. It really helped me a lot. And that was during that time where I was really having my spiritual awakening and I was trying to navigate my parents. And there was other stressors, as we all have in our life. Yeah. And that became my therapy. That became my weekly therapy.
And you've been doing tarot for a while. Would you say that you're still learning from it?
I will be learning till the day I pass. Yeah. I'm always trying to brush up on it. Oh, and I was going to show you. Remember we were talking about Biddy Tarot yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll take a picture. I don't have it in here with me, but I'll take a picture. I wanted to show you like the bound version of it that I made. That's like this thick. I brush up because what's happening is I've developed this shortcut with my cards, but I bet sometimes you get so caught up in your own shortcut that you're missing nuance and more texture. So I'm always getting books out and trying to brush up for sure. And, you know, I try to just really think on it. Sometimes some things you can do if you want to deepen your relationship to your cards. And I know that, you know, we talked about that. Maybe just do one card a day and then kind of do a meditation on that card, what that card means to you. I think you told me you do that, you know, just kind of like a little more exploration on that card. And I need to see, this is good for me. I need to get back into that as well, especially since I've been reading on TikTok and it's fast. It's like fast, you know.
Tell me about that. How does that go? How does that work? Okay, I'm not even on TikTok, so tell me how you're able to get some people.
Sweetheart, I'm like a TikTok convert. I'm telling everybody to join TikTok like it's a new church. I love it. I love it. So it's a completely different culture though. Instagram moves slow. TikTok moves at the speed of light. Speed of light. So you have to be able to catch up and move fast. And it's its own culture. And I do believe that literally comes from it came from China. So there's a lot of influences in that into the way it's built. The technology is brilliant. It's genius technology. The algorithm, I can put stuff up consistently on Instagram and add just a few followers a week. And, you know, I put something up on TikTok and go live and I add 1,200 followers in a month. And from next to nothing, it grows very quickly there. But, they have what's called a For You page, and it's where the lives come up. And I would see people reading tarot in the lives, and I'd be like, I think I'd really enjoy that. And I don't have the time because of all these other side projects I've got going on. I got the magazine. The magazine just came out 2 months ago. I've got a podcast. That's how we met, was through my podcast, me interviewing the girls that were on your podcast. So I've got a lot of distractions. And I used to read at a lot of events and at a metaphysical store locally. And I just don't have the time to fit that in with everything else, right? I still want to read for people. But the nice thing about TikTok is I can go on and read. If I got all my work done on for myself, I can go on and read live for 2 hours at 11 o'clock at night. I don't have to leave the house.
Yeah. So, but how does that work? Do people, they're able to ask you a question somehow?
Yeah. Okay. So they can see me just like we are right now. Okay. Imagine if we were live right now on YouTube and we're having this conversation, and over here was the chat. We don't see them, but we can read their comments and we can respond to their comments live while they're chatting. So, so I have this music I always play. I have my little ritual. I have my candles. I have some spray that I spray, some Palo Santo spray. I try to like create my own vibe. I got my little screen here so I don't have to look at my messy room. I need to just stay focused. And then they see me come up in their For You page. And so they decide, they pop in, and a lot of people just pop in and pop right back out. They're just surfing. I've done it a million times too. I don't take it in any way bad, but some people stick around. And then they start talking to you and you're talking to them. And then they'll ask you for a reading. The way I work is I'm reading for free right now on TikTok, just like quick readings, like little minis, because I want to build community. But then I promote that I do longer readings, and people then book the longer readings with me. So it's just kind of this fun little, front of the sales funnel. Here's me giving you stuff, and then if you like the vibe, become a subscriber for $4.99 a month. And then if you really like the vibe, come and get a reading with me. So it's like that.
Yeah. I want to get to too, because you already brought it up, the Spirited Soul magazine.
Yeah. So Spirited Soul Tarot started this all right around my spiritual awakening. And I was doing the tarot, like I said, 8-10 years ago. And then last summer, I just had this epiphany. I had done magazines before. I had worked in magazines, and my husband and I started a magazine that was about his areas of interest about 20 years ago. It's still online. It's called Rust Mag. And that's about vintage cars, hot rods, motorcycles, history of racing, all the guy stuff. So I helped him with that. And I always had this dream, because my interests were so different, of having a magazine geared towards women about spirituality, wellness. And I'm a lifelong creative. I'm a writer, a musician, a songwriter. And so, about tarot, all the things I'm interested in. So I started it last August, and we had our inaugural issue came out a couple months ago. And it is a print magazine. People can get digital versions. I'll send you a link so you can have a copy of it. And yeah, it's my passion project. Like the last issue, I had a lot of young creatives in it that were doing really beautiful things. I had people that are creating like spiritual modeling, kind of like being their own model, and then integrating spirituality with the images that they create. It's hard to explain, just beautiful stuff. I had a jeweler that infused spirituality into the jewelry that she made, a writer who would write about the lost constellations of the Norse, and because he was a pagan and he was really into Norse culture. And then I interviewed a Tibetan monk. I got to meet and have my magazine blessed by a Tibetan monk who I got to listen to his talk for 2 or 3 days. And I interviewed him, and it was incredible. Like I was in tears. It was just like being in the presence of just the kindest, most beautiful energy you've ever experienced. And he was funny too. Like, he was just superhuman and like down to earth, and yet really just beautiful. And he talked about delusions, human delusions, and how many 80,000 he reckons. The Tibetan monks believe we have 80,000 human delusions, and they can name every one of them. They have them all memorized, and they debate every day about human delusions, which is fascinating. And I did not know that.
I probably have a lot of them, but I'm happy with them. I like my delusions. Maybe people with delusions are happier.
I can't give them all up, man. I've given up smoking. I've given up alcohol. I've given up caffeine. I am not giving up all my delusions.
Yeah, you got to keep something. So I have here that a lot of the just for like the listeners, the types of articles are on mysticism, artistry, transformation, wellness. And speaking of wellness, tell me more about Reiki.
Oh, I love Reiki so much. That's been a big part of my spiritual journey. So after my dad died, I went and got Reiki. I'd never had it before, other than I'd had a masseuse say, "Is it okay if I run a little Reiki on you?" And I was like, I don't really understand what it is, but okay, And I was like, yeah, that's nice. I don't really get it, but, and then I just felt so depleted.
Just for that's where I'm at, kind of like,
Okay.
I don't really get it. I heard of it. I kind of know what it is, but what is it?
Okay. So Reiki is like, have you heard of like, how like Chinese Qigong, like it's energy work. It's basically that you're tapping into the highest vibration energy that can move through you. And then you can then help heal people with your hands by tapping into that energy. It is esoteric. There are things that you need to learn and move through in order to get more and more ability and access. It's interesting, and it's real. And I remember when I went the first time, I crawled onto the table. I was so depleted. I was so exhausted. And they run their hands over you. It's like they're praying over you for like an hour, and they're not touching you. It's above you. They just touch like maybe your forehead, your shoulder, and your feet, just gently, like just this little touch here or there. But you just feel energy moving into your body, and you feel yourself just starting to go relax. You go home and you sleep so good after your first Reiki session. Like your sleep is magnificent. And so I went, I feel better. I'm going to go again. And then the second time I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I'm going to go again. And I only went 3 times for actual Reiki from a practitioner. And then that was like, okay, I have to learn about this. I have to study Reiki. So I took my Reiki level 1 from a local woman. Marian Hakata is my Reiki master. She's like 80 years old. She's just incredible, loving, just the most wonderful soul. And I studied level 1 with her. And then she's like, you have to integrate. And, and there's certain things like you can have a healing crisis, like your body, it's almost like it raises things up and things have to move out, right? And I did not do what I should have done, because right around that time, then a friend said, I'm really excited that you're doing this. My Qigong master is doing a whole training back east. I can fly you back and you can study with him for a week. So I went right from Reiki training to a full week with Qigong, which is fine. They're very simpatico, but I didn't give myself a chance to integrate the first one. And then I went right into a week of studying and working with Qigong, like Shaolin monk energy work. I was blasted open. So that is when I really had to create the framework, because I was just hearing, it was too much. It was too much. I even was dizzy. Like I didn't feel right, and I had to just integrate that energy and then get a really ground. I had to ground, spend time meditating. So then I started meditating a lot, like grounding myself, taking intentionality, and then doing things slowly and adding. And so I've been studying Reiki now. I started out with Reiki was started. It was probably been around in Japanese spiritual practices for years, but there was a man who had like this download around 100 plus years ago named Dr. Yasui. And so it started with him, and he trained people on Yasui Reiki. And then there have been variations that have spun off since. And so I am now like a Yasui and Holy Fire. And Holy Fire is incredible, because that's when I really started being able to do some of this liminal space work, where I'm able to have these experiences and stay grounded, if that makes any sense. Like I see things in a different way now, because I'm more in control of my vibration, my energy. I don't get upset like I used to. If somebody doesn't like me, I'm like, it's okay. I'm not for everybody. There's going to be people watching this right now that are going to not resonate with me at all. That's okay. I know that there'll also be people that'll be like, oh, that's really cool. I got something positive from that. And I'm not going to put myself, down because some people don't resonate with it. And that's been this huge breakthrough in my life that I do believe came from Holy Fire and from the experiences that I had in studying Holy Fire, because it freed me up so much from self-criticism, self-doubt, and a lack of confidence. Because I've always had these ideas. I wanted to do the magazine for 10 years. But I came out of that and I'm like, let's go. I had a little bit I think I was drinking too much after the pandemic. And I suddenly was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done drinking. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to never do that again. So I'm in recovery now. I go to meetings. Like I'm like, I don't want to do whatever is possible to have a clear enough the clearest channel possible to just being the best version of me in this lifetime, all the time I have left. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just, for me, it's been really, really great.
I'm curious, when you're doing Reiki, are you feeling the energy coming off of other people? Like, oh, this is negative. We got to get this out of here.
I don't
Oh, this
see
is
negative or
positive.
positive. I see blocks, much like the way I try to see people. I can have somebody that I'm doing a reading for, and some people would go, that's a really negative person. I see that as a beautiful soul that's had trauma and they haven't got the healing from their trauma that they needed. So there's just blocks and we need to help them remove the blocks. So I literally don't see negative or positive energy so much as I just see people that are in a state of transformation and open to it, or people that are still blocked from being able to transform into the best version of themselves.
Yeah. Well, this is becoming a pattern with me. I write so many notes and so many questions for every guest that I don't get anywhere near all my questions answered. So it just means I have to have everybody back on again. Oh, I know. I wanted to ask you about the art because I saw on your website that you do like these art classes, but there's spiritualism in it too. Like tell me how this goes down.
Well, one of the things that's been part of my spiritual journey is trying to move past negative thoughts, negative emotions, and shift into higher consciousness and positivity. And there's different ways to reach different people. And so affirmations, I think, are a really great thing to help change your life. Like I use affirmations all the time, but sometimes people really struggle with understanding how that can change their life. So what I do is I do an art class. I just call it affirmation art. And I've done it with elders at a senior living center. I've done it with business people. I've done it with just, a cross section of humanity. So what I do is I give a little talk about positivity and affirmations and how we control manifesting, how we control our environment and what we can bring in versus with the thoughts that we have. So I give them an example. I tell them, it's all right if you have zero creative ability. It is if you think you have that. It's okay if you've never done a slight bit of art. You're going to walk out of here with something that you're going to be proud to frame. And I'm going to give you the frame to do it. And so I give them this whole talk about how the affirmation that they write, we're going to decide is the bridge for them to be able to create something beautiful. And that I say, you do not judge your art in the next hour, and you don't judge anybody else's art in the next hour. I can't control what you do when you walk out of here, but I'm asking you to set your intention for this hour. You're going to create something beautiful. And I want you to pretend you've been doing art for 20 years. This is nothing to you. This is easy. And if you find yourself starting to go, oh, this isn't or that, just remember, it's going to be messy in the middle. So we do this whole talk, this whole big pep talk, and then we write affirmations on our art, on our canvas. So if it's like a paper thing, then we're writing all of our affirmations, and everyone's affirmations are different. And I give them, when they come in, a pile of affirmations that they can pull one out and go, I like this one. Or they can just bring their own in. I had one lady, her son had not spoken to her in a year. And so we talked about what would be a really beautiful thing. And so I had her write a letter to him, like this beautiful letter. And then she painted a painting over it. And then she mailed it to him. And I never heard what happened because, I lost contact with her, but I like to believe that positive energy and that beautiful letter somehow affected him on an energetic level where he would allow them to consider the possibility of some kind of reconciliation. But what's interesting to me is in doing this, how the most beautiful things happen. Like art just comes out of these people that have thought they never had the slightest bit of talent. Beautiful things. Because for 1 hour, they let go of the idea that they couldn't and believed that they already had. And they use those words as the bridge to get to that other side. And then when they walk out, I'm like, you did this once, you can do it again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. Please tell everybody listening how they can follow you on TikTok or Instagram, book a reading with you, take an art class, all the things that get in touch with you.
Okay. So tarot would be spiritedsoultarot.com or .net. And my menu's there. And then, if you say that you saw this podcast, if you mention that in the chat, I'll give you a discount. So mention the podcast and you get a discount. And I'd love to read for you. And then you can also find me on TikTok at Lorie Spirited Soul and on Instagram, Lorie Spirited Soul. The magazine is on Instagram, Spirited Soul Magazine, and also spiritedsoulmagazine.com, its own website. And I think there's also Lorie Blanchard Art, might still be on Instagram. And then Lorie Blanchard Art Group is on Facebook. I don't know. I'm all over the place. I'm ridiculous.
And she did a reading for me yesterday, and it was amazing. I'm going to put that up on my Patreon so you guys can see that for extra content.
It was so
fun. I hope you
fun.
guys enjoyed. It was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this episode of the Ghost Bunny podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on my spooky adventures, and I look forward to sharing a new ghost story with you each week. Please subscribe to my podcast so you're always the first to know when a new episode is out, and follow me on social media at Ghost Bunny Podcast on Instagram, at Ghost Bunny Podcast on YouTube, and my Patreon, which I'm trying to get going. So yay for content. Bye, guys.